All right. Welcome into this edition of the Milwaukee Bucks on Tap podcast. Corey Moen, Evan Byrne. Evan, how are we doing?
You know, can't complain. I'm doing well.
Oh, I feel that. Oh, I definitely feel that. So the Milwaukee Bucks had a few games last week. Hang on, give me a sec. Sorry, something was like something was really weird on that. So anywho's, the sorry, I keep losing my train of thought here. Hang on, I'm just gonna stop doing that. Sorry, I just lost my train of thought. So the Milwaukee Bucks had a few games last week. They played against the Oklahoma City Thunder. They played against the Charlotte Hornets. Obviously they got killed by the Thunder without Lillard or Giannis, and they were able to knock off the Charlotte Hornets.
Mm-hmm.
Unfortunately, I forgot that they played the Hornets, but they were able to pull off a win, 112-102. Honestly, this kind of started the game of like when Giannis and Dame, Giannis was missing games due to a calf strain. So, we're just gonna kind of skip ahead. We're gonna actually. First matchup we're going to talk about is their loss against the Atlanta Hawks, 115-110. Disappointing loss. Milwaukee at one point had a 21-point lead and just could not hold it. So, what was your takeaway in Milwaukee's loss against Atlanta?
I mean, coming into it and kind of seeing, obviously, without Giannis, it's one of those games where it's like, this is one of those games where I think that they can win easily. Maybe not easily, but still have a chance to, stay in the game. And when you see the Bucks score 47 points in the second quarter and then lose, I don't know. It did not look well. The entire second half, they scored less than what they did in the second quarter. 47 in the second, then only 37 combined for the second half is horrible. One of the worst second halves I feel like they've had this season. I don't know. It was a extremely frustrating loss, especially coming into the second half, being up 21 points and then losing that same quarter in the third quarter. Just completely erase everything. But no, just a very frustrating loss. One of those games where obviously without Giannis, I still feel like you're capable of taking a win away or win home. I don't know, not the best shooting game from Lillard. He still had 23 points, but you shot 4 of 13 from three-pointers. Just a very inconsistent game right there. But I think their biggest issue is rebounding. Without Giannis, our top rebounder, there's really no hope in being able to out-rebound any team. Bobby had 15 total rebounds, and the next highest rebounder was 9. So you have him kind of carrying the load just because Brook Lopez is not a rebounder. He has 2 rebounds that game. But I think their biggest issue, again, was the rebounding itself. They got out-rebounded 43-52. Obviously, 43 rebounds is a lot, but still giving up 52 is not the best, and 11 offensive rebounds. Their biggest issue, I feel like, with that is just this happens in a bunch of their games. I feel like leading up to the All-Star game, whether they won or lost, they just watch the ball, and there's no and I feel like this has been an issue in the past too, not just this season, but previous seasons. The idea of, he'll get it. But when 3 people are saying that and then no one gets it, it adds up, especially just giving them second chances, whether it's a made field goal or not. Just super frustrating just to kind of watch these possessions just lose a bunch of these extra possessions just because no one's rebounding it. When they have 3 wide open guys who are physically capable of grabbing the ball itself. Knowing Torian Prince being the one, they get whatever his quote from Baylor was. They got more of these. They grabbed the ball more times than them. Just a very doozy game. Not being able to hold off the Hawks, especially looking at their lineup too. No Jalen Johnson is big. Looking at these guys, you don't really know a lot of the guys in the Hawks outside of Trae Young, maybe Jalen Johnson, Larry Nance, but Dyson Daniels too. But holy smokes, they just could not keep up that second half, and it was a very frustrating loss, especially having a 21-point lead going into that second half. You could lose and be down 21. Cool. Awesome. They got blown out. But having a huge lead like that, to have it erased so fast is always frustrating to kind of bounce back from, especially doing it without Giannis as well.
Yeah, no, I feel exactly what you're saying. And the thing is like in that third quarter, especially against the Hawks, they were just jacking up shots. Like there was no flow to the offense. They were just jacking up shots. Here, Dame, you go ahead and make magic happen because it just, and again, there was like at one point in the second quarter, they were 10 out of 10 from three.
Yeah, they just could not miss.
And then to go from that to just not being able to hit it from the ocean standing on the beach is extremely frustrating. To the point where I'm just like, what are we what flow of an offense are we trying to run here? Like, who is this offense going through? What are we trying to accomplish? Like, it just became one of those things where Atlanta, in the third or fourth quarter, was just simply the better team.
Mm-hmm.
Okay? And again, I understand, look, they got Ice Trae. Okay? Ice Trae is extremely unguardable, but again, it's just this whole rebounding issue that Milwaukee's seemingly had the entire season. Really, what it comes down to is coaching. Okay, I think all five guys should want to grab a rebound, and it just doesn't feel like that's always the case. Okay, again, it's just like Brook Lopez. You mentioned that guy used to just suck up rebounds. But it's just all of a sudden he's gotten older. He's breaking down a little bit, and he can't be everywhere at once. Brook Lopez is honestly a better defender when Giannis is out on the floor with him. That's simply what it comes down to. Is Brook Lopez is 36 years old. Okay, he's in his 16th, 17th season. He's a lot older. He's still an effective defensive player, and he's still I still think he's a good player for Milwaukee. But what this just boils down to is does Milwaukee have five good defenders like they used to back in the Coach Budenholzer days? When they had Drew Holiday and Khris Middleton and they had Giannis, and when they traded for PJ Tucker and when they had Lopez, they don't have five guys who can defend anymore. Okay? I'm not saying Damian Lillard's a decent defender, but he's not to the level of Drew Holiday.
No.
Definitely not. And you don't want him to be either because Damian Lillard's skill level on the offensive end supersedes what I want him to do on the defensive end, which is not chase over screens, not guard the best player. But the problem is I just don't know how many defenders you find that can really defend at a high level. Okay? And again, the biggest issues for Milwaukee this year has been turnovers and offensive rebounding. It just kind of becomes just sort of I just feel like a lot of this just comes down to coaching. And I hope this will get fixed because I'll tell you what, when you face a team in the playoffs, the teams are just going to get that much more bigger. Okay? All these teams, they got two big guys, one starting, one coming off the bench. And let me tell you, Brook Lopez is off the floor. All these teams, offensive rebounds at a premium.
Yeah, they're gonna get.
That's what you have. So that's what Milwaukee has to keep in mind. They traded for Jericho Sims. They haven't played him yet.
No.
So Bobby Portis is our next big. You want to play Giannis at the 5? So then why'd you trade for Jericho Sims if you weren't going to use him? Like, that's my whole thing. Don't trade for somebody if you're not. Yeah, I'm not. Granted, I wasn't expecting him to play in like 30 games or something like that, but like I expect him to be used a little bit,
especially with Giannis out.
Yeah, especially with Giannis out. Because let me tell you something: Bobby Portis ain't grabbing offensive rebounds. He's not. Okay, that is not that man's strong suit. He is not going to do it. I haven't seen him do it. So it's like you have to be able to like get a big who can like grab offensive rebounds or grab defensive rebounds and clear the glass. And unfortunately, Milwaukee just does not have that right now without Giannis out on the floor.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and kind of looking at the box score. Outside that second quarter, they didn't score higher than 26 points in a quarter, which again is not going to win you games. Sure, you still had that 21-point lead, but if you can't score in any other quarters, yeah, you're not winning that game. And Hawks were a lot more efficient outside of the second quarter itself. They had a 36 and a 37-point quarter, so it's going to add up. But yeah, no, that was just I was working that night and seeing up 21 at the half, and then checking back after the ads game and seeing that they lost. I was like, oh, that was fitting. But yeah, no, doozy game, but a good bounce back. The next one against Philly.
Yeah, let's move on to that one. Kind of sad. It was Hubie Brown's last game called as a broadcaster. Obviously legendary career. To be calling games at 91 years old, you can't do anything but tip your hat off to that. And again, it sucks when you lose legends like that, right? Like, when Marv Albert, when we called his final game, or, when you get Hubie Brown, or, when you just get legends who you kind of grew up with, and they're calling games, and all of a sudden that aspect of their life is over. It's very sad, obviously, and it's a fitting way for Hubie Brown to go off because Milwaukee ended up winning that game.
Mm-hmm.
Every time Milwaukee plays Philly, I keep harping on what Philly doesn't have. Okay. Now they had Joel Embiid this game, and he played well.
Yep, everyone played.
They had Paul George, and they had Maxey, so they had the big three, quote unquote. They just didn't win, and that's really what it boils down to. Milwaukee ended up winning that game, 135-127, pretty high scoring.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, what do you want me to say? Philly's always had the same issue. They don't have a bench. Okay, they have like 3 good players. And when you just have 3 good players and a vast majority of them like miss a lot of time, you're probably not going to win a lot of games. If Tyrese Maxey is like probably the franchise player at this point, but you're not. But again, you're not winning many games if you get the two, the 2 stars who are always in street clothes. You're not going to win many games. Okay. And this is a problem. And this is a problem I have with the Phillies. They think that Daryl Morey is going to solve all their problems. Daryl Morey does not know how to construct a roster. He just doesn't. Okay, he just throws things together. He's this like analytics dork from Harvard. It was just like, he struck gold once with Chris Paul and James Harden, and he had a decent team there. But then he just all of a sudden, started to get wacky. Then he started to have a Rockets team in 2020 who had a player that wasn't taller than 6'5". That just kind of became like a, then all of a sudden people just treated Daryl Morey like he was some like guru, some like genius, some GM. Let me tell you something. Just because a guy is from like a smart college, and just because he struck gold once as a GM, that doesn't mean he's going to keep striking gold. And he drove James Harden out of town, after he lied to him. I mean, look, this is just a problem. This is literally the issue with Philly. I mean, again, I'll harp. And Evan, let me tell you something. I'm going to harp on this each time that Milwaukee plays and beats Philly. Because Paul George scoring 12 points in 29 minutes, that's not good. Joel Embiid scoring 27 points. Tyrese Maxey dropped a 40-piece. But then again, who else do you have? Justin Edwards, Quentin Grimes, Yabu, Jared Butler, Eric Gordon, Kyle Lowry, Ricky Council. Ricky Couch at one point started for them. But again, Damian Lillard, 43 points. Gary Trent, 23. Bobby Portis, 18. Kyle Kuzma, 13. Like, it's just one of those things where Milwaukee just owns Philly at this point. Philly just does not have a good enough team. And I'm going to keep saying it until they can prove that they can be contenders in the Eastern Conference. And based on what their record is this year, they're probably going to be in rebuild mode. Because, again, I just don't know where they go from here. So what was your reaction to Milwaukee's performance against Philly?
I mean, again, it was almost very similar to the game against the Hawks. They were up 25 points, and they only won by 8 points. So definitely later in the game, in the fourth quarter, kind of blowing a big lead. But, win's a win. I thought overall without Giannis, again, they did well. Giannis. Lillard had a good bounce back game shooting from the 3 of 14 the game before, 8 of 15 from this one. Same with Gary Trent. Shot 7 of 20, shot 15 3-pointers, but still hit 7 of them. So again, a little iffy on the efficient side, but still being able to knock down 15 3-pointers between two guys is always great to see. I think my biggest kind of issue that I kind of pointed out, they shot 105 attempts compared to Philly's 89. So almost 20 more shots than them, and only won by 8. Little bit efficient, not quite there, but again, still able to pull it off. This was just one of those games where I felt like everyone contributed evenly. Ryan Rollins only had 2 points, but he only played 4 minutes, made his 1 shot. So again, that's one of those things. Again, Andre 0 for 1, but he's out there doing what he's supposed to be doing defensively. Otherwise, everyone else besides those 2 scored in double digits, which is always nice to see. Just overall, again, a good game. I think from Lillard, but I think the real shining light is Gary Trent being able to get 23 off the bench. Bench had a huge game, especially going into the All-Star break. I feel like the bench has stepped up a lot more. Really starting to like the Kyle Kuzma trade. Being able to average about 13 to 17 points, I feel like that he's been getting. Really good rebounder to have outside of Giannis, especially without having Giannis. I felt like he's been able to kind of carry that load. So it's not Bobby doing it all himself. Overall really good game. Again, a little nervous near the end, but still being able to hold on. Again, another game without Giannis. Putting up 137 points is always good. 135 points is always good to see. Now, they gave up quite a few, but that's kind of expected when you have Tyrese Maxey in your team. He's going to take the majority of the shots, scoring 40 points. So it is what it is, and coming out with the win is always a win in my book. So however you can do it, great. And they did what they need to do.
Yeah, and I think the biggest thing for Kyle Kuzma is I think he's matured. Okay. In his early years at LA, right, especially when he was playing with LeBron and AD,
Mm-hmm.
he had the blonde hair going, and he had kind of like a nonchalant, like malcontent attitude. But I think now he's like, after playing for Washington, I think he's probably like, I got to get back to playing winning basketball again.
Yep, cool. I don't play in Washington anymore.
I don't want to play it. Yeah, I can't. Like, I don't want to be a franchise cornerstone anymore. That's not my role. And I never thought that I just never thought from a team building perspective that was very optimal for Washington, because I just don't think Kyle Kuzma is a cornerstone guy. Right? I don't think you build a team around Kyle Kuzma.
Mm-hmm.
I think he is a very good third option.
Correct.
But I just don't think he's like him and Jordan Poole playing basketball, like, that was just optimally like, fuck it. That's basically what they were saying. They were just basically saying, like, we're not gonna win, so we're basically playing like 2-on-5. That's basically what it was. We're just gonna. This is my and one mixtape. This is LA Fitness. We're just gonna chuck up a bunch of shots, and I'm making a bag, and I'm going to be a wizard long term. Like, it's just like at some point or another, the Wizards had to rebuild. They're like, all right, well, Kyle Kuzma is probably not going to be a rebuilding piece, so we should probably get out from under this. He was also hurt during the stretches. All of a sudden, he's in Milwaukee. He's playing good basketball, good complementary basketball because he's got a good team around him. Now, it may not look like it because Milwaukee's sitting at 29-24, and, they're kind of holding their head above the water a little bit. Like, Detroit's I think Detroit, I believe, is 2 games back. I believe Detroit's actually has a winning record there too. But still, Milwaukee, if they can go on a bit of a win streak here, okay, and, they can get Giannis back, I think if this team could be whole, I think that'll, help, Milwaukee increase their seeding in the Eastern Conference. So
I agree.
Yep. So, all right, let's move on to the next game. Golden State. Lost that game. It was 125-111.
Yep.
Now, look, I'm going to be honest. Milwaukee played good through I believe through the first 3 quarters of the game. And then, I think it was over once Quentin Post.
Yep, once he started hit 2 threes in a row.
He had 2 or 3s in a row. I'm like, this game. Well, this game's over. And then I think Steph Curry hit a couple daggers, and I'm like, it was just curtains. So,
yep.
I mean, it was kind of the same story. Really struggled on the boards. I have no idea what was going on here, but Milwaukee could not. The biggest theme in this game was turnovers and offensive rebounds. That's literally what this came down to. Milwaukee had allowed 15 offensive rebounds and turned the ball over 20 times to the Warriors 9. You're not winning any NBA game, especially against Golden State. For as inconsistent as they have been this year, you're not turning the ball over 20 times against Golden State and allowing 15 offensive rebounds and expect to win any sort of game in the NBA. It will not fucking happen. Okay? Now, again, they were missing Giannis. I understand that. But still, who scored? Kuzma had 21, Lowe had 38, and Prince had 19. That's it. That's all we get.
Yeah, next highest score was 7.
Curry had 38, Butler had 20, Quentin Post had 13, Buddy Hield at 16, Moses Moody at 16. Notice the difference there? You see how balanced that scoring is? That scoring is especially Quentin Post. No, I had never heard of this player before that game. Obviously, he hits 2 threes against us, but I'm like, I shouldn't even be surprised anymore because since I was a kid, that's what Milwaukee's always done is to make no-name players just absolute stars.
Mm-hmm.
And again, there were some times with Curry. There were some threes with Curry. Again, Steph Curry's ridiculous, so don't get me wrong, but there were some open threes that he took that I'm like, what are we doing? But it would not be a Warriors game without a Draymond technical foul. I mean, look, Jimmy Butler, I think that's more of his role. I think he likes being the second option. I don't, I think he just wanted, people are going to be, bitch about Jimmy Butler forcing his way to Golden State essentially, but it's all he wanted was a good team. I think he was just tired of carrying the load all the time. It's you look at that Miami team, right? And they got a couple of solid pieces. They got Tyler Hero and Bam Adebayo, but sure, Jimmy Butler's sake, I'm like, why do I got to keep passing the ball to, all this talent that's not going to get us anywhere? I want to be with Curry. I want to be with Draymond. I want to be with a veteran-led team, and that's where he's at right now. So, and Bello didn't have the best game. His shooting percentages weren't very good, but he still eked out 20 points. So, I mean, but again, if Damian Lillard's your main scorer and nobody else is doing anything, it's just you're not you gotta play complementary basketball, right? You gotta hit all 3 phases of the game, offense and 2 phases. Offense and defense. When you turn the ball over and you offensive rebounds, you're just not you're not winning. You're not winning. So, not surprised Milwaukee lost. I just don't think they came out good, particularly in the third or fourth quarters.
No.
They got outscored 36-28 in the fourth. Again, I think they kept this a game for throughout the first three quarters, but
yeah, it was 90 to 92 or 94 to 92, and then all of a sudden they go on a 12-0 run, and that's game.
Yep.
It was always an 8-point game, and then they just would bring it back and then give it right back up.
A lot of fouls in this game, though.
Yeah, I got to go to this one, unfortunately. I went for Steph Curry. That was the only reason why. But yeah, 38 and 34 free throws for each team. It was just foul after foul after foul, I felt like.
Milwaukee shot 10 out of 33 from 3, and Golden State shot 13 of 45. So,
felt like they made way more than that, too.
Yeah, and that's the thing is, Golden State shot 38 free throws versus Milwaukee's 34. I mean, there was a fuck ton of fouls in that game. There was a shit ton of just a shit ton of fouls in that game for some reason.
Yeah, almost 50 fouls.
Yep. So tough loss, but again, like I said, Milwaukee rebounded with a very, very close win against the Minnesota Timberwolves, 103-101. Once again, Giannis out. Led by who were they led by? Not led by Damian Lillard because he was out, it looks like.
Yeah, it was Gary Trent off the bench.
That's right. So Kuzma had 19. I mean, damn, they were lucky as hell to win that game.
This was a really good game to watch.
Yeah, despite the fact that Milwaukee, usually with a game like this, with Minnesota having all their players and Milwaukee missing two of their top players, you would think that, oh my God, Milwaukee's probably going to get killed in this game because if you look at the starting five, it was Kyle Kuzma, Taurean Prince, Brook Lopez, Ryan Rollins, and Andre Jackson Jr. That's not exactly a lineup that everybody could come in and just. But again, Gary Trent had 21 off the bench. Kevin Porter chipped in 11. Kyle Kuzma had 19. See, this is what I'm talking about. Complimentary scoring, Evan. Okay? Kevin Porter Jr., this is why they brought him in. This is exactly why they brought him in.
He had, I think, 9 in the fourth quarter of his 11.
Yep. See, this is what I mean. Kevin Porter Jr. is a good basketball player. Sometimes, he can't catch. He doesn't have very good hands. But, other than that, I do think he can, he is a good complementary piece, and he showed it there on Wednesday night. Now, here's my biggest issue. My biggest issue, and it has to do with the Minnesota Timberwolves. They've been holding their head above water a little bit. Okay, they're 31-25. My issue with the Timberwolves is their roster construction, right? I just don't. What is there exactly? Because I know Naz Reid, I believe he's the reigning sixth man of the year.
Mm-hmm.
They got Ant. But then who else do we have?
You got Gobert. And they got Dante and
well, Dante's out.
Yep. And so is Julius Randle.
It doesn't look like they have much of a bench, though.
No, they have a horrible bench.
They got Terrence Shannon Jr., they got Jalen Clark, they got our former guy, Joe Ingles, and Rob Dillingham. I'm like, I understand. People like to crap on Gobert because, he got benched because, he's a defensive liability against stretch bigs. I understand that. I mean, Gobert's not a bad player. It's just the problem is with what he's getting paid, he's just, he's very one-dimensional. He's 20 points, 14 rebounds, which, again, I don't think that's bad, but, it's easy to crap on Rudy Gobert because, again, he is kind of a defensive and it's weird to say it for a 3-time defensive player of the year, but when other teams have stretch fours, right, guys, bigs who could get out and shoot, he becomes a liability. He becomes a guy you don't want to, put on the floor because, he's going to allow so much. Brook Lopez. But Brook Lopez at least could shoot from the outside. Gobert can't. We've talked about on this podcast where, we've seen with our own eyes Rudy Gobert try to shoot a three. He cannot do it.
It's like the Draymond where it looks like they have a backpack on.
Yeah, about it. And again, this is what the Warriors have to, not the Warriors, excuse me, the Timberwolves have to rely on. With Anthony Edwards is going to be the focal point of that offense, right? So with Ant-Man becoming the focal point of that offense, like, you can't have a one-man band be your main scorer. Because let me tell you something. If Minnesota makes the playoffs, all these teams are going to be gearing up to stop Anthony Edwards. So they basically can just sit back and just be like, all right, someone else beat us. Because let me tell you, if Julius Randle comes back, Julius Randle, I don't think will make a lick of difference. I don't think will make a lick of difference. See, this is where losing Karl Anthony Towns really hurts. Because you basically improved the Knicks while not improving your own team. Because I honestly think, and it was crazy to talk about before the season started, where it's like, oh, well, I don't know how either team got better. Really? You don't know how the Knicks getting Karl Anthony Towns, a bona fide top 10 player in the league, you don't understand how they got better. And meanwhile, the Timberwolves traded for like Dante DiVincenzo and Julius Randle. You cannot understand, you cannot fathom how the Knicks got better than the Timberwolves. I can. Karl Anthony Towns is a good player. Like, he is. And honestly, he was a weapon last year for Minnesota, and I just don't understand how, Julius Randle's missed a large chunk of the season. I just don't understand how you can fathom, like, trading Karl Anthony Towns, and now you're just barely holding your head above water. That's what I'm trying to understand, because you had such a successful season last year. But then you come into this season, you have that ownership distraction, which, by the way, it looks like Mark Lowry and Alex Rodriguez are going to win that. And then you trade Karl Anthony Towns, and it's just why? Like, who's pushing for this? Like, why do you want to trade Karl Anthony Towns to the Knicks? Did he ask out? I don't think he did, because I think he was a Minnesota lifer. And all of a sudden, you're just like, no, we can build a better team with Julius Randle and Dante DiVincenzo. No, but why, though? Like, was there a power struggle there between Ant and Cat? Like, that's a question I would have. Is, did this become like a situation where it was Cat's team, and all of a sudden you trading Cat away just to clear a roster, just to give the keys to Ant? That's what I'm trying to understand. That's what I don't understand, because you make it and I get it. Look, you were not a good matchup for Dallas, but still, it's like, why when you get so close, why not just run it back? Why make your team worse? This is what dumb organizations do. Now, look, sometimes teams just try to run it back too far. Okay, like when Milwaukee won their championship, right? And it's like, when they won their championship, and it's like, they re-signed every free agent. And again, this actually happened after they lost to Boston, right? And John Horst decides to not really improve our team. He just decided to just re-sign every single free agent that Milwaukee had to run it back, so to speak. And, I'm trying to remember how that season went. I believe, let's see, after they lost to Boston.
That's where we got eliminated by the Heat.
Yeah, he ran it back, and then we got knocked out in the first round after Giannis got, was like 60% of. And then, he made all the way, and then, Coach Budenholzer gets fired, and like Coach Budenholzer got fired 2 years after winning a championship, and then, you hire a brand new coach, and then, you fire that coach halfway through the year, and all of a sudden we got Doc Rivers. So it's just like the NBA, like, championships are not celebrated for long in the NBA. If you're not still like in contention, you're not putting yourself at that level, you're going to get fired. And again, that's the unfortunate situation that Mike Budenholzer found himself in, because that's not a good roster. It's not. Okay. Phoenix doesn't have a good roster, unfortunately. And, I get it. They got, Bradley Beal and, Kevin Durant and Devin Booker, but it's like they don't have good guys around them. And that's what this boils down to, okay? And again, that's the part I worry about for Milwaukee, is I know they have Lillard and Giannis, and they have Brooke, and they have Bobby, and so they got their core guys who they won a championship with. But then you ask, like, well, are the role players good? And I actually like Taurean Prince. I think Taurean Prince has been playing really well for the most part. And I think Ryan Rollins, I mean, to a lot of people, I think he's played well for the most part for what they asked him to do. Because I don't think he was expected to have a big role heading into this year. But then Daylon Wright just didn't really, like,
pan out.
no. So then you got to go, like, all right, Ryan Rollins. So then it's just like, all right. I mean, he would be a fourth-string guard on most teams, or like in the G League or something like that. So then you just kind of have to ask yourself, like, is there anybody that Milwaukee can like rely on in the bet? And Kevin Porter Jr. I do think was a nice pickup, and I do think he's going to be good. But that's again, championships are won by the role players, not won with the stars. Okay. I know it's going to sound Captain Obvious, but this is what people forget. You can't just build a roster built with, like, just stars. And every single championship that's won throughout history in the NBA, it's been because the stars have obviously played well, but then you have a couple crucial role players who have, like, picked up the slack a little bit. Whether it was the finals with Pat Connaughton or PJ Tucker, whether it was, there's always moments where teams win championships. Right, it's rare when you get a LeBron James 2007 like Cavs where he's basically just dragging that garbage to the finals. Ended up getting swept, but because again, you can't. It's not. That's why they call it a team game, because teams, like, players win championships. Okay, so that's really what this. That's just really what this boils down to: is crucial players. X factors win championships. It's not just about the stars.
Again, you can look at that at the Minnesota game when you see Anthony Edwards taking 33 shots, 4 of 17 from three-pointer. He's my brother texted me after the game. He's one of the guys who said, like, I don't do overtime. So you knew he was taking that shot. And to see them shoot 39, I think what was frustrating was them being 39 of 103, 10 of 44 from three-pointers, and you only win by 2 points. Naz Reid was 0 for 6 going into that last shot and hits his one three-pointer. So you're almost losing to a team that stats were horrible, but again, still able to pull out the win. But like when you see with the team player stuff, it's like, I don't know, I'd get kind of annoyed if I'm seeing Anthony Edwards take 33 shot attempts. I mean, he's not even making most of them. He's, 10 of 33, 4 of 17. Again, like what we say, he's shooting concert dates out there. And it's one of those things where if you're relying on that one guy to win, you're not going to win much. Seeing your bench do nothing outside of Terrence Shannon, I don't know, it was one of those things where you're not winning that game when you got one guy taking the majority of your shots. So really 3 guys outside of Edwards. You got Naz Reid and Gobert. But yeah, no, just an interesting game, I think, overall with that aspect kind of going into play. But that was, if you're a basketball fan, that was a fun game to watch. And we can thank Kevin Porter Jr. For that one in the ninth quarter, the 9 points he had in the fourth quarter. Game tying shot, at the right after that Naz Reid 3-pointer, and really good defense. I feel like locking down Edwards, taking a horrible shot. Not a horrible shot, but a shot that I felt like he could probably make, but he wasn't going to make it anyways. But yeah, no, a good win to go into the All-Star break, I think.
And it is kind of interesting because I believe last season, right? It is kind of odd because Milwaukee actually won the first game at Minnesota coming out of the All-Star break. And now this season, they win the game at Minnesota before the last game before the All-Star break. So it's kind of like, it is kind of interesting to note that. Hey, if Milwaukee needs a little pick-me-up, just play in Minnesota.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm going to kind of move on to the other topic section of the pod. So obviously they traded for Kyle Kuzma at the trade deadline.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of people have talked about Kuzma being like a third option for Milwaukee. Do you think that Kyle Kuzma, a two-parter for one thing, because right now he is averaging, I believe he is averaging 15.2 points.
Yep.
Two-parter. How do you think Kyle Kuzma's played so far, and do you think he could be a legit third option for Milwaukee?
I liked this trade. I think overall, when it first happened, obviously, again, giving up AJ Johnson wasn't the most ideal. But I think when you know you're trading for Kyle Kuzma, I feel like you know what you're going to get. When you're playing in Washington, I wouldn't want to play well either, or really take things seriously, because you're not doing anything with that team. But I think knowing his role, that he's not going to be the number one or number two guy, he's going to be that 3 or 4. I think playing into that role has gotten him a lot better and more consistent, I feel like, throughout the games that he's been on the Bucks with us. I really like this trade. When he says he averages 15 points, sure as hell, that's exactly what he's doing. This last game against the Timberwolves, I think he had 19, 21, 19 points, which is something to kind of note. But I think he's been a really good pickup, and I think he's definitely a really solid third. Yeah, I would go third. Again, you're not going to have Taurean Prince. You're not going to have Gary Trent Jr. Kind of over that, especially being off the bench. But I can see him being a real solidified third man when Giannis and Dame are both playing together as well. And it's starting to turn out to be a really good trade, I think, overall. A lot of people are shitting on him when they first traded him. I don't know. I kind of saw it differently. I like Kyle Kuzma. You know what you're going to get, but I think the biggest contribution he's given us is his rebounding. Only averaging 6 rebounds. He's had a few games where he's gone well beyond his average, especially this past one being 13. I feel like it's going to be a good contribution, especially when Giannis comes back. We'll see how it differs, but knowing that Kuzma, Giannis, and Bobby are kind of your 3 solidified rebounders, I feel like it's helpful to have that third guy who's capable of doing it outside your 2 solidified guys. But I don't know, personally, I really like it, and I hope he can kind of stay here long term, and this is his ending team in the league.
Yeah, I do like the trade. Like I said, I feel bad that it had to be Khris Middleton. Mm-hmm. He was the sacrificial lamb, so to speak. But no, Kyle Kuzma, I think he's played extremely well. He's been a bright spot for Milwaukee offensively. And again, it would be exciting if it's one of those things again where it just feels like every time Milwaukee puts a team like this together, it always feels like somebody's missing, right? Whether it's Middleton, whether it's Giannis, or whether it's Lillard. It just always feels like Milwaukee could just never get whole at the same time. There's always going to be somebody missing. And I understand with Giannis because he is an older player a little bit, and, he's, those calf injuries are tricky, so you want to make sure that he's given as much rest as possible so we can, and I believe that's what he missed. That's why he missed the playoffs last season, was due to a calf injury, if I'm not mistaken. Like some sort of like deep calf injury that they just couldn't play through. So it sucks. I just hope Milwaukee after the All-Star break can be whole and everybody can kind of stay healthy. But I mean, unfortunately, this is just the way it's gonna have to be for the most part. Is I just think that I'm not trying to be cynical, but I'm like, damn, could this team just get a little healthy just so that just so we can see what they look like? Because sometimes it just feels like teams are beating us when we have basically one hand tied behind our back. So it's kind of hard to be like, damn, can we just if this person didn't get hurt, it always feels like it's a bunch of what ifs that we got going on. But to answer the original question, I do think Kyle Kuzma could be a legit third option because he's done it before. Okay, he did it for LA with AD and LeBron. Okay, he could be a third scorer. He could be a third guy who could come in and score. I have no doubt he could play a little defense too. You just gotta you put a guy on a winning team and he's gonna play winning basketball. And I think that's what Kyle Kuzma has been doing for the most part. You saw him do it the other night against Minnesota. You obviously seen it do it against. Like, he's just played well. I just like the fact he's been come in. He's been consistent. He's been able to rebound. He's been able to defend. Like, I just like his consistency. Now, the only thing I would work on if I were him is probably the free throws, because God forbid, he is not the greatest free throw shooter in the world, and I would like him to see him spend a little more time on that. But other than that, I have no complaints. I just think he's been a really solid offensive contributor.
Yeah, I agree. I feel like, well, obviously we haven't really gotten to see Jericho Sims yet, but I feel like the three guys are fully capable of contributing how they're expected. When you get Kevin Porter Jr., you're not expecting him to be some 25-point scorer. You weren't trading him to be your number one guy. So I feel like all of them have been fitting in well. I want to see Jericho Sims play, being 6'10", having a well above average vertical, I feel like can be somewhat contributable, especially with Giannis being out, like we said earlier. So kind of hoping that he gets to play soon. I feel like the new guys' contributions, I feel like, have been very adequate with what you're kind of expecting from them and how they're able to correlate that over to winning games, especially with Kuzma being getting the most minutes.
So moving on to the next topic, Milwaukee's kind of flip-flopped wins and losses in Giannis's absence. What's your concern level? What was your concern level in those games in which Giannis missed?
I just feel like they're doing it to themselves. It's not like they're getting blown out. They're losing it themselves. They're playing themselves. They play down to their competition. Talking about that Hawks game, you're up 21 going to the half, and then you only score 37 points in 2 quarters. Not a good look. Even with that win against Philly, blowing a 25-point lead. But again, I think a lot of it is just rebounding, turnovers, and fouls. I feel like have been their issue these last few games with Giannis being out. Lack of rebounding with the Hawks game, giving them the second chance shots, fouling and turnovers in the Warriors game. I feel like, again, they were close the entire game until late in the third going into the fourth quarter. So it's, again, games that they're fully capable of winning. It's just the small things that add up over time that you're not going to win games, like you said, when you have 20 turnovers. You're giving up 15 offensive rebounds. Those games just aren't winnable if you're constantly doing that. So I feel like I'm not concerned that with Giannis returning that it's going to keep happening, but it's definitely something to kind of be alert for, because again, Giannis can be a guy who has 8 turnovers a game. We see it in Lillard as well, but I think it'll change differently with the rebounding capability once Giannis gets back, but it's just kind of concerning to see them not just being blown out, but just losing to themselves, and they're the main reason why they're losing, and it's just small things that slowly add up, and you don't really notice as much until it's having a huge impact on the game, especially with that Warriors game as well, with so many things that they did to themselves that kind of caused them to slowly lose it near that fourth quarter. I think you're on mute.
I'm muted.
There you
go. Yep, it does go down to turnovers and offensive rebounding. Unfortunately, that's just what this boils down to. When I've watched some of their games, and just not taking good shots, just not playing within the flow of the offense, right? Like that Atlanta game. When I watched them, it was just like, okay, we're not scoring. Why don't we get the ball inside? Okay, because again, it's. And there's the other thing, too. Brook Lopez also got stuffed by somebody that I've never heard of before. So I think he's losing a little bit of his vertical, because the man got stuffed by a guy who's like a lot more athletic than he is. Like that used to be like 3 or 4 years ago. That used to be a guy who would just like, he would draw a foul, but I just think he tried to dunk on him, and that just did not work. So that's the toughest thing to watch. I just think the other toughest thing to watch is just the fact that, they just jack up shots.
Mm-hmm.
They rely too much on Lillard. And, I just don't know. Sometimes I just don't know what they're trying to do offensively. If they're playing team basketball, or, hey, game time. If Dame Time, but Dame Time can't play 48 minutes, so it's like you got to figure something else out. So, let's move on to the next topic because this one for a lot of people was like extremely sad. The Khris Middleton goodbye.
Yeah.
Let me see if I can. Oh, that was looking for. Let me see if I can present. Share screen. There we go. Now the Khris Middleton goodbye. Now, what? Hang on. Give me a sec. I think I gotta log in. Ah, damn it. That didn't work. Yep, hang on. Yeah, we're just gonna take a peek at it because this was just this was sad. Like what made this sad is the fact that give me a sec. You know, because he went through everything in Milwaukee, right? Thousands of games, and you know, he goes through like the really brutal rebuild. Okay, starts to emerge, starts to develop as like one of the best two-way players in the game. Okay, helps us win a championship. Fights through so many injuries just to try to get out on the court. Him and Giannis developed this friendship. And then all of a sudden, it's over just like that. So that's the one aspect of this I hate to see is not only the fact that Khris Middleton went through all that just to end up on the fucking Wizards, but like, you know, just everything you go through together as like a guy who you've been watching for like the last 12 years. Like that's the part that's sad. That's the part that sucks. And that's the part I hate to see because, you know, I think Khris Middleton was going to end up finishing his career in Milwaukee? Unlikely. I mean, I know they paid him a little money, but like, I just think it became one of those things where it's like we got to get a guy who we can count on to stay healthy. And I just think it kind of became a point where it's like, I just don't know if Khris Middleton could be that guy.
Mm-hmm.
So I guess what was your reaction to the goodbye and like how much, you know, after reading that, are you going to miss Khris Middleton?
Yeah, no, I feel like deep down he knows that this was like no blind side, nothing where it was like, oh, I didn't know I was going to get traded or potentially be on a different team. And I think like his message, like kind of say like really thanking the city and like being able to go through the ups and downs. Cause again, he was the start of the rebuild. And again, turning into that championship run, we don't win the championship without him. We don't do a lot of playoff appearances without him. You know, it was nice to kind of see the part where he's kind of saying like, it's not a goodbye. Like it's a thank you. Which is always helpful just cause not leaving on like, hard terms. It just kind of sucks to have such a routine for so many years and then to just restart it all over again in a whole new city, whole new team. But I think deep down, like I hope he's a part of the Bucks franchise, like how Brandon Jennings is. You know, he was in the Brandon Jennings trade, like that was the reason why he was here. And being trading Brandon Jennings, I feel like was such a big move for them to make, and to see him still come back to Milwaukee as if he never left. I really hope Khris Middleton is able to do the same later on once his career's done. 22 is definitely going to go up in the rafters. There's no doubt in my mind. Michael Redd had a really good statement about him as well. So it's always cool to see the 34 and 22 get carried over to a huge legacy. So it'll be cool to kind of see Khris Middleton back. They play the Wizards in a few days. So it'll be cool to kind of see him again. Feels like it's been forever already, but it sucks again that it had to be Khris, but I feel like deep down it was time. But I'm glad he was able to understand the meaning behind it and being able to just say that about the city and just know that Milwaukee's always like the team that gave him a shot and was able to help develop him, and being able to play whenever he could is always good to see. We love Khris Middleton, always going to be the greatest guy to wear number 22. So it'll be cool when they can finally retire his jersey years down the road.
Yeah, I mean, he's not going to be like that fraud Kareem Abdul-Jabbar.
Yeah. Doesn't think we're going to win the championship and then joins us at all the championships.
Yeah, all of a sudden, him and Oscar are just riding in the parade. All right, Kareem. You know what? I know I give him a lot of shit for it. I mean, but I don't know. I mean, if I'm him, it's just, I mean, do I want to spend the rest of my career in Milwaukee or do I want to spend it in LA? And I'm like, can I really blame him? But I don't know. I just don't like it when like players do that. They demand a trade. And all of a sudden, they're back in the front row. I'm like, do you want it out? It's like,
yeah, you did not want to be here.
People don't forget that shit. So that's the only thing that really bothers me. I understand the magnitude of like him winning a championship, him and Oscar winning a championship from Milwaukee, but it's like don't like demand out of Milwaukee and then just like act like you just loved us the whole time. I don't like
hey guys.
Like don't like shit like that. So no, you're right. Look, if John McLaughlin could get his jersey retired, Khris Middleton's getting his jersey retired.
Yep.
And no disrespect, but damn it, but Bucks love nothing more than retiring other people's jerseys.
Yeah, they have quite a few where it's like, we could have saved that number.
Oh God, I mean, really, they just got like, like Bob Dandridge. I'm like, come on, what? Like, I get it. Look, some of these players play in the 70s, so, like, I'm going to have a little bit of more of an ignorant take with it because I never watched them play. But still, I'm like, some of these players, like, if you look up, like, Milwaukee Bucks retired jersey, right, they're kind of like, they just, like going gung-ho, like, with, like, retiring jerseys. And I just don't understand it. Like I get Oscar Robertson. I get some guys. Kareem, they got Oscar. Junior Bridgman. All right, Moncrief, I can understand. He was a good buck. Marcus Johnson. Marcus Johnson? I guess he was a 4-time All-Star and three-time All-NBA honoree. Okay, that's pretty good. Bob Dandridge.
Yeah, he should be Marcus Johnson should be in the Hall of Fame if he got a ring. He'd be a first ballot, I feel like.
Yeah. All right, 18 points. Okay. Rookie team. John McLaughlin. 11-year career. Oh, I guess he was the all-time leader in points? Really? All right.
Way back in the day.
Bob Lanier. Brian Winters? I've never heard of this guy before. Wait, timeout. He played 1975 to 76 through 1982 to 83. That's kind of confusing way to word that. He's got some assists. Kareem. All right, I guess it's not. All right, I honestly thought that they were gonna like Luke.
You get a retirement jersey. You get a retirement jersey.
Ridnour should have his jersey retired. We're just gonna do just random. We just do random players.
Yeah, I think Giannis and Khris will be the next two for quite a while.
They will be. We're not gonna be retiring jerseys for a little bit. Look at this. I'm sorry. I'm just watching the All-Star game. It's just a little too, I don't know. It's too much. I don't like it. The reason why I don't like it, and we'll get into it in a little bit, the reason why I don't like it is because I don't know when the hell the fucking thing's supposed to start. Okay? Like, when is the All-Star game actually supposed to start? Because right now it's 8:20. Okay? Like, can we have, an 8 o'clock game to start at 8 o'clock? What's all these, random-ass, See, this is what I don't like. They got to explain why the All-Star game is going to be exciting, even though it's not. And again, the problem I have is like half these people are going to go to bed, so nobody's going to watch it, so nobody's going to care. So I don't understand why every single year people get into, well, who got snubbed and who didn't. You know why I don't give two shits who got snubbed? Because half the fucking people, half the working class, Evan, doesn't even watch the All-Star game. It doesn't garner an audience. Like, literally, it's going to be tomorrow, it's going to be like, oh, well, it was one of the lowest rated this, like the All-Star game numbers declined again. Do you want to know why? Because for most of the population, it's like 8:21. Okay, people go to wake up and like go to work, so nobody wants to sit there and watch a goddamn circus act. That's why nobody watches the All-Star game. It has nothing to do with the players. It like literally, can't they just start this game at like 6:30? The court's open.
Yeah, and they're
Like,
doing
why
like
do they
this
need to do all this
4-team
extra
thing
stuff?
now.
It's too much. Okay, it's way too much pomp and circumstance. You get LaMelo Ball playing, Leandro Ball playing his one song that was popular in like January, but now nobody gives two shits. All right, like nobody cares about Tweaker anymore. Nobody cares. It was good in January. People got to realize when to let fads go. That was a fad. Nobody is still listening to Tweaker back in January. It's a good song. Don't get me wrong, but it's a fad. Okay, it came and it went.
Yeah, I think I love All-Star break. That was my favorite thing about the NBA season. Every single year growing up, this All-Star break was hands down the worst one I've ever watched. It's not going to be good when the first thing that they show is Chris Paul and Victor Wembanyama just throwing the basketballs everywhere. Come on. That's set up for failure. They're cheating, trying to cheat this. It's like, this is already going to be shitty.
I don't know what's happening. So the All-Stars are playing against the Rising Stars Challenge.
Yeah, it's like 4 different games are going to be played.
Started an hour ago?
One game's been played.
Wait, what? See,
there's 4
I'm confused.
games.
This is confusing. I'm confused.
It's not East versus West.
I know it's not East versus West, but
it's like Kenny, Chuck, Shaq, and someone else. Candace Parker.
So wait, they're trying to make this longer?
Correct. They're playing 3 games tonight.
What?
So now Charles Barkley's
Why?
team is in the finals. Whoever wins ratings, I don't
rating? Who would watch? Nobody wants to watch 3 games. I liked it better when players didn't give a shit and we could just like
172 to 150 and call it a day.
Yeah, damn. I don't. Why would you watch all this? No, like, I don't want to watch 3 games of like the All-Star weekend. Why would anybody watch this?
Yeah, no, it's a complete joke now, and I could rant on this for hours and hours of how.
It is the dumbest thing. Like, honestly, the fact that Justin just told me that, it is probably the dumbest thing that I've ever seen, ever. Like, the fact he told me that this is the 3rd game. This is the 2nd game. And okay.
Yep.
All right. I'm lost. I'm completely lost. They've convoluted the hell out of this. This is a circus act.
Yeah, the dunk contest, it takes a G leaguer to win.
Mac McClung dunking over the car. Okay, stop. That was not a Blake Griffin dunk.
Correct. Yes, he went over the full car. Not the hood.
He actually
over someone too.
Yes. Blake Griffin just jumped over the hood. That's not as impressive as what Mac McClung did yesterday. He actually jumped over a full car. Like, fuller than what Blake Griffin did. Blake Griffin just cheated. He jumped over the hood. Which, again, I'm not saying it's not the greatest thing in the world, but, like, it's not better than what Mac McClung did.
Yeah.
Which, by the way, hey, you want a recap of the NBA All-Star? You want a recap of the NBA slam dunk contest? Andre Jackson Jr. didn't dunk over a car, so he didn't win.
Mm-hmm.
That was legitimately what it came down to.
Yeah, his dunks were horrible. The guy from the Bulls were horrible. Starting off the dunk contest with a miss, or Stephon Castle, and then the next guy missing, and you still get a 40.
Yeah, that's the issue I have with the dunk contest. The scores are way too favorable. Way too favorable. I mean, look, the reason why, Mac McClung had to do this because the reason why, I mean, he's the first player ever to win 3 straight slam dunk contests. And again, he had to save it because I remember 2022, which was already 3 years ago. It was a disaster. Like a player won on a miss, which is insane.
Yeah, he now has more slam dunk contest wins than career NBA dunks. He has 2.
Yeah, and again, people are like, "Wow, Mac McClung should like get more run," and I'm like, "Wow,
no." I'm shocked he's still in the G League.
I mean, I'm not saying he's bad, but like, I don't. I mean, is he better with what the Magic have right now? I would think not. Yeah, again, I'm watching this right now. I'm like very confused. Is that Dame? Yeah. Okay. And it's Candace versus Shaq. Well, who are the first 2 players to?
Kenny and Charles Barkley.
Okay. Okay. Well, who did he have? Did he have the Rising Stars? Or did he have the Veterans?
He had the international players.
Wait, what?
He had the international players.
So there's all international players against who?
Well, that's whoever wins this game.
No, but who do the international players play?
Like all young Jalen Brunson, Anthony Edwards, Jaren Jackson.
Wait, all right. So there's international players versus
a smaller team.
Of the Eastern Conference?
Well, of like just that mixture of like it was like Jalen Brunson,
They got to pick those guys.
Yeah, they pretty much picked their own teams.
Are you confused?
Yep, they did like a draft. I know.
Yeah.
I know they. Okay, I forgot about the draft. I knew they did the draft before the thing started.
I just do not care anymore about
Confused
it.
as shit.
I should have just watched the hockey game.
By the way, the 3-point contest, Damian Lillard did not win.
Yep, so I didn't care.
That went to Tyler Hero, who apparently was the 5th Miami Heat player to win the 3-point contest.
Yeah, it wasn't even a good 3-point contest either.
No, Dame was not. No, and again, Dame won 2 in a row, so it's like it's kind of hard to three-peat that, and it's hard to make it it's hard to make that good. But I mean, again, this has just not been a good. And again, I knew it was set up for failure when I saw who was playing in the All-Star Celebrity Game. Like, the All-Star Weekend just kind of ruined it. They're throwing celebrities in there who, I'm sorry, are not celebrities. And like, a celebrity to me, I feel like should be known to the rest of the world.
Correct.
Right? Like, I know who Drewski and Kai Cenat is. But that's only because I'm, like, online, like, all the time. I wouldn't think the vast majority of the population, unless you're like really deep into YouTube, would know.
Yeah, your grandpa's not being like, "Oh, there's Drewski."
Well, the celebrities, I don't know. I just think they need to be like
movie stars, singers.
Yeah, the problem is I keep thinking influencers are celebrities, and I'm like, I just don't view them that way.
No,
sorry.
I don't either.
Like, I just don't view influencers as celebrities. They're in their own separate category. They're influencers. Okay. Like, if they go to China or something like that, or they go around the world, would anybody know who they were? And the answer is no. Like, stop. Influencers are not celebrities. I'm gonna stand by that. I don't think they are. I don't see what they're. And again, you talk to people. Oh, they're influencers. What do they influence? I don't know. They're just really funny online. That's why people like them, and they post a shit ton. So like that's why. And again, you get old veterans in there like Baron Davis. He's really,
yep.
And I don't know. It's just Jerry Rice is coaching. I mean, it's just I don't know. It's just one of those things where I watched 21 minutes of Kevin Hart playing in the All-Star Celebrity Game, and I'm like, damn, I miss those days. So that's about it. The All-Star Weekend sucked. And honestly, based on what I'm watching right now, it's probably not going to get any better. So. But hey, 10-minute quarters.
There we go.
So, Evan, you got anything else?
No, got a back-to-back. Thursday, Friday, and then closing out with the Heat on Sunday. But otherwise, Khris Middleton return on Friday. That's all I got.
Yep. So, all right, guys. Thank you for tuning in to this edition of the Milwaukee Bucks on Tap podcast. We'll see you guys next week.